Today, the panel will focus on how former President Donald Trump spread baseless claims of election fraud, something Congressman Adam Kinzinger, one of the two Republicans on the committee, spoke about yesterday on Face the Nation.
He was told repeatedly by people that he trusted, that he respected, people like, folks around him, that the election wasn't stolen, that there is no corroborating proof of any kind of a stealing or any kind of a corruption that would change the outcome.
All right, so our congressional correspondent, Scott MacFarlane's here on Capitol Hill, to give us an idea of what to expect today, Scott. The committee says that for today's hearing, it's going to try to show that former President Trump was able to convince Americans that the 2020 presidential election was stolen. So what more do we know about just how this and the other focus points are going to be sort of laid out today?
Anne-Marie, they're going to say former President Trump convinced millions of Americans about these false claims about the election. These false claims were the first in 7 steps, the committee says, that led from November 3rd to January 6th. It was the spark that kind of fanned the flames or triggered the flames that began this whole incomparable set of events that led to the horrific attack on January 6th. What they'll show today is not only were the claims false, but that the inner circle to Donald Trump knew it, warned him, said it unambiguously that this is not true, that this is bogus. We'll likely hear more clips today, Anne-Marie, from some of those depositions the committee took with members of the Trump inner circle. And we're going to hear from an all-Republican panel of witnesses, local officials who said their state's votes were legitimate, but that they were forced out or left their jobs under pressure because of the false claims. A Fox News analyst who lost his job after being first to declare Joe Biden would win Arizona. A Republican legal expert, elections lawyer, who will talk about how these challenges are supposed to happen. And this all begins at 10 a.m. in a 2 to 3 hour hearing that will show more of the hand this January 6th committee is holding.
We're also going to hear today from the Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman. We've heard from him before. He helped to lure a mob away from the Senate on January 6th. What can you tell us about what we're going to hear from him, and what do we know about this case of also an accused, I'm not reading this properly, but he's going to testify on the bench trial of an accused rioter who carried a Confederate flag into the Capitol that day. I remember seeing that image. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Anne-Marie, it's happening simultaneously. The January 6th committee hearing is happening, and this trial begins at the same moment just down the road at the federal courthouse here in Washington, D.C. Let me tell you about the defendant first. His name is Kevin Seafried. He's from Delaware. He's going on trial with his son, Hunter Seafried. They're co-defendants. Kevin Seafried, the Justice Department says, is the man who brought that Confederate flag and paraded it prominently through the Capitol complex January 6th. It's a bench trial. That's important. That means the judge will serve to officiate the trial, and also he'll be the one to render the verdict. There is no jury. Kevin Seafried has pleaded not guilty and sought this trial, but it'll be Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman among the witnesses. Goodman was that hero officer who helped lure the mob away from the Senate doors January 6th. Watch this case, Anne-Marie. The judge is a 2017 appointee to the federal court. He's handled 2 other bench trials involving January 6 defendants, and there was a partial or full acquittal from the judge in both of those cases. Let's see what happens today. We could have a verdict by the end of the day in the case of Kevin Seafried.
So speaking of pursuing criminal charges, I want to bounce back to the January 6th committee. We know that the committee members have said that they have all kinds of evidence if the Justice Department wanted to act in terms of pursuing criminal activity. What are the options? What sort of actions could the Justice Department take?
Well, the committee can, at the end of its work, make a formal referral to the Justice Department to file criminal charges against any number of players in the conspiracy they're alleging. But let's be clear, before these hearings even began, Anne-Marie, the January 6th Select Committee, in its court filings, as it tried to get emails or documents from some of the witnesses or cooperation from some of the witnesses, said in so many words, they believe and they have evidence that Donald Trump committed conspiracy, engaged in a conspiracy to defraud the United States and obstruct the official proceedings January 6th. They've already said that. It gives you an indication of the trajectory of these hearings before they wrap this month. They can make a formal referral for prosecution for anyone they deem necessary, but it'll be the Justice Department's decision whether to plow ahead with that. And the Justice Department and the Congressional Committee must stay in separate lanes. They cannot work together.
Scott, thank you very much.